Today we're going to be talking about the many reporting options you have available when you are using Follett's Destiny version 17.0. Before we get started on the reports, let's talk a little bit about backing up and restoring from backup. In our Destiny, we have an automated backup system, and our district has chosen for Destiny to house those backups on their servers so that if anything were to happen with our district servers, we would have a backup of our catalog through Destiny. It has been a while since we have had to monitor these backups and at a school level. So right now, our technology department and our media services department work with Destiny for our library manager and our resource manager to provide those automated backups. And if a situation were to arise where we would need to restore, they would work together to restore our catalogs for all of our schools in the district. So let's talk now. I'm signed in to Destiny, and I'm going to the reports. So we have lots of different reports available to us. Right now we're going to be talking about our library reports, and we're going to look at some circulation reports. We have current checkouts and fines. Whenever you click on one of the links to open up something new, you get some different things to check and to format. We're going to format and then limit and then show the details of this report. Up at the top here are some of our favorite saved reports. Some of these reports run weekly and are set up to run weekly without us having to go in and individually run. I'll show you that option at another screen. But first we want to select what we're going to be choosing here, and we're going to select checked out and overdue materials. We're really only going to look at those that are overdue. If you come down here, you can select all the books that are checked out, but we're looking at just overdue items. And you can select how long they've been overdue or from what time period they're going to be due. Resources, we're going to unselect this because our students only have books checked out at this time, so we're going to keep our patron fines and library fines. And we're going to select our report as PDF, but you can also select Excel, and if you select Excel, that will let you manipulate the cells and organize them in different ways. You can also select notices to be printed out, and these notices can be printed in a lot of different ways, so we'll look at that. So we're going to continue. You can limit based on your patron types, so you can select which patrons you want to run this report for. We are actually going to select graduating in, which will get all of my students that are graduating in a specific time frame. So I'm going to select 24 because those are 8th graders. I'm only going to look at my active patrons, the ones that are that show that they have active status, not inactive or restricted. You can select what type of circulation you want to do. You can select from your Dewey Decimal classification. We are actually going to clear this and just select those. We just want books and not any of our other resources that might be checked out at this time. And we're going to select biography because we have ours set up that way. And then we're going to select fiction. And there we go. So we're going to say OK. And we're not going to select resources for this one, but if I were to select resources, it would be things like musical instruments or headsets, things that might be checked out. You can also include materials from patrons that owe fines that belong to other schools' sites in the district. And this is good to select, especially when our 6th graders come in, so we can see some of the fines that they had at their previous elementary school. We're going to press continue. Now I can sort it by patron name, or I can sort it by homeroom, which I'm going to do, where it puts all the homeroom together. I can start a new page for each group. I can have the title and the cover image, which I think is kind of helpful when you're trying to locate a lost item. I go ahead and I do not add the student's barcode number because it is their student ID number, and I don't add that onto things, reports very often unless I absolutely need them to be. You can also select grade level and homeroom, but we've already done that by selecting just our 8th graders in our homeroom. So I'm not going to add that information in. I can save this setup, and this is where we can have it saved. We can give it a name, and then we can run the report. And we can schedule it to happen daily or weekly, so that you don't have to run the report every time. So I'm going to save and run. Then the report manager opens up, and we can look at the status, which is in progress. Usually if I press the refresh list, it will show that it's been completed, and we can view it. And now I have that PDF of the students with their books. And if I scroll through, these students have not been assigned to a homeroom. They'll be up at the top. And I can scroll through and I can see, so for this student that hasn't been assigned a homeroom yet, and it could be for various reasons, either the update from our Infinite Campus hasn't put that student there yet. So I'm looking here, and this book is actually due to another school, so another middle school in the district. So this student came to us with a fine, and so I can look at our codes for the schools and help that student get that cleared. So now we start seeing the students that are assigned to a homeroom, and these are all in one specific homeroom. So as they circulate through the Media Center with their ELA classes in their homerooms, I can help these students that have books that are currently overdue or lost. And I can show them the cover, and in this situation, usually I don't print this off, but I have a piece of paper that can go over my screen so that only one student at a time can see their name and what they have checked out. Okay, so let's go back to our report manager. We're going to go back to that checkout fines. And now this time I want to select our notices. So you can see the difference there, and you can select Spanish or French for your notices. We're going to continue. I'm going to keep this the same way with the same things that I had set, limits I had set earlier. Let's continue on to the details. Now this is where I really like to have it sorted by homeroom, because I'll probably be attaching these to report cards for the homeroom, and I'll distribute them internally. And I like to select that we will print 2 or 4 notices per page. That way I'm saving some paper, and then give a little information here. This is really nice to do, especially at the end of the year, and to give a time frame, like all books must be turned in by May 20th. And then we can again select that cover image so they know what they've looked at, and we can add that price in so they can see. Again, I don't usually like to add their student ID number because that's just information we don't need to add. But to make it a little bit easier, I can select grade level and homeroom if I'm doing this for the whole school. And I can again save the setup, but I'm just going to run so we can see what this looks like, and refresh. the list and refresh again. This is a big one because it's still in progress. Let's refresh. It's running. We can see the status over here. And there we go, we're complete, and we can view it and then print from this view if we decide to. So again, it shows me the patron and the overdue materials, and then the estimate for the book if the book is lost. And there you go. Those would be the overdue notices. Okay. So let's go back and let's talk about inventory. So our inventory, again, I'm in reports and I'm under library reports. You can look under here at your completed inventories and your in-progress inventories. And you can see here that we have some that are done in parts, because sometimes you can't do a complete inventory. You can also look at some of the in-progress ones that were never finalized. And you can view those, and then you can see what copies are done and run that report. Again, we're going to, if you run a report, you're going to end up back in our report manager and see the in progress. And this will just give you a little bit information on that inventory that is still in progress. So that's the report part of our inventory. If you go to the back office, you can actually run that inventory. So from your back office, you have the selection for inventory, and you can start a new inventory. These are the ones that are still open. Once you complete your inventory, you can finalize or you can start a new one. To start a new one, it's a good idea to give it a name, and then if you're doing an inventory in batches, you may decide to select call numbers. And I like this unaccounted for. All copies meeting the above criteria will be set to accounted for. That just means that all of those books will end up being part of your catalog going forward, and that you have inventoried them. And then, so once you select your inventory and you scan your items, and you've gone through that selected section, you will finalize them, and then it will show up in that report. From under our reports, it will show up under our completed inventory as opposed to an in-progress inventory. Okay, now we're going to look at some of our collection reports. We're going to come down here to our statistics, and we're going to look at our collection statistics. So this is going to tell us about the age of our collection, and it's going to tell us about circulation and the value of our collection. So now that the summary has come up, we can select age, and then we can look at the diagnostics from certain call numbers or certain parts of our collection, and we can see the average age of the books that total in our database. So for instance, in this section of our library, we have 53 copies, and the average is 2001. But we can look very quickly to see some of the areas that we need some updating. So this one that's in 1978 is definitely old with the 45 books in our 400 section. So that needs to be an area that we look at as we are doing new orders. And so this can be an excellent way for us to see the age of our books. I also really like to use, if we go to the catalog, I also like to use our tidal wave analysis. So you can submit your collection for analysis, and once the job is run, TidalWise will give you an overall health diagnostics of your collection, and it puts it in this nice format that you can share with stakeholders to show really that you need funding for specific books, or that the Media Center needs some attention. And you can see that our Media Center definitely needs some attention because the average age is still in the 90s. So we need to get some more books that are current, and also continue to weed some of those books that are no longer current. So that's just another option when you're looking at reporting and finding out about the age of your collection. Next up, we're going to talk about printing barcode labels and reading program labels and spine pocket labels. So barcode labels are easy to print. You select what you want to print. We want to print the barcode. I like to select books that I've put into a list for this specific reason, or you could do it based on books that you've added during a current time. So if you added books on a certain day and you only want to print barcodes for those books you added, you could set it up for books that you added during that time. But I like to select from a list, and I just choose a list that I create, and then I can choose any kind of material type and any circulation type. I like to include the site name, the title, and the author for our crawl number. At this point, you select what kind of label you want to print, and you can also export it to Excel. This one we're going to run for Adobe Reader so that our labels will print properly. So we're going to run the report. Again, it'll show up in our progress in our job list. We can refresh from our report manager, and then we can view the barcodes that were in that list. And then these barcodes can be printed off and attached to our books. The same way that we created those, we can create spine or pocket labels. And we can do the same thing. We can select that same list that will go along with that barcode, or we can select the time period. And then we need to select which type of labels we have to use. So whichever kind you have selected to use for your books, you can also export it to Excel. I usually try to keep it relatively easy to read, and then we can run the report. Again, it's going to show up in our report manager. I can refresh and then view our spine labels, which will print out on our labels. Another report that we can run is a barcode list, and this will show us any of those unused barcodes that we can use when we get new books that need to be processed. So we're going to select unused barcodes for this one so that we can see which barcodes we need to use. And say, for instance, I have 20 new math textbooks come in, or new resources come in. I can select that I need 20, and I'm going to choose my barcode range starting on 7, 8. To see, usually we're given a range that we can look for, and I would like to keep these in a consecutive range because they're all going to be part of the same, but you could just have all barcodes in a list in a barcode range that you select, and we can run this report. And then we can view the report. And it tells me that I have these 20 books that I can use starting at this barcode number to that barcode number, and that'll give me the 20 consecutive books that I need for that barcode range. Finally, let's talk about how to create a custom index. Now we're going into the report builder. And in the report builder, you can create a new report, and we can make a list of different things that we would like to see. We're going to search for titles for this one. We want on here the author of the title, and we're going to do a search by Lexile. We also want to include the title of the book. Okay. We can group it by Lexile, so it goes in ascending Lexile order or descending. And then these are fine. This is just the report details, the column order from left to right. And we can sort by the details, so the author in ascending. We're going to include the Lexile. And we do want to put a limiter on this one because I want to find Lexiles that are less than 400. We're not going to add any other limiters. Let's give this a number, name, Lexiles less than 400. Okay, we're gonna save and run. Again, we're in the report manager and we're looking at our progress. We're going to refresh our list. And now it's completed and we can view that report. These are Lexiles that are lower than 400. So we have our author and we have the title. So we can find those books and we can print off a list of books to help students in specific Lexile ranges find a book within their range if that's what they are looking for. So that concludes our look at reports in Destiny Follett version 17. Thanks.